I always say that collaboration can be a significant part of your growth fuel, but the wrong collaborations can actually be a derailer, and they can quietly cost you your credibility. It costs you aligned results, and it can also affect your peace of mind. You are listening to Amplify Your Success podcast, episode 478. And today we're going to talk about the 4 factors before you say yes to make sure you avoid the hidden costs of misaligned collaborations. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, authority amplifier and founder of the Rising Tide Collective. And today I want to dive into the second part of my mini series on discernment. And this is one I have certainly had my growth opportunity around, really learning what to say yes to and what to maybe release. I get this question asked all the time from clients and members of Rising Tide Collective who are exploring how do I collaborate in a way that really brings value to my company, to my business, without sinking me into frustration and disappointing results. And everything I'm about to share with you really has to be put under the lens of what's important to you as a business owner and your values. But as a rule, I find that if we follow these 4 factors, you'll make really good decisions. And just my own experience, if you haven't heard my story before about how collaborations they've been the surge of ideal clients when I needed them the most. They've been the platform, the foundation, I guess, that really moved my business to new heights. And it's a growth multiplier. And most experts underuse it. I watch people who really kind of like deepen into this silo approach to growing their business. And I watch them like kind of hit the level of saturation of what they can do on their own. And then they're wondering why things aren't growing, why it's not working. And I'm like, you should be collaborating. You should do, no, like, and everybody has their reason. Well, if I dig underneath the reason, it's almost always because they've bumped into a place where it felt like too much work for too little results, or they'd been burned. And that's why I love teaching my collaboration currency approach. As a matter of fact, I'll link it up in the show notes here. It's a really inexpensive, very powerful, self-guided process that you can go through to really unlock the right kind of collaborations for you. But let's hit the high notes here, because I think if you could really just focus on this piece of choosing the right people, you're going to see great results faster. I got asked this question by somebody who was joining Rising Tide Collective, and they were evaluating whether this was the right next step for them. Everybody goes through an application. It's a highly curated room of experts, and one of the things we looked at was what is the right kind of collaboration for them, because if you don't know that, then you will oftentimes say yes to something that looks shiny, but then you'll find, oh my gosh, I've tied up assets and time and bandwidth and energy and maybe even money in something that's not going anywhere. And this could be any kind of collaboration, from cross promotions to, let's say, you're co-creating something. I know you could be co-creating a summit. You could be co-creating a product. You could be co-hosting a webinar. You might be hosting an event and you're inviting other people to speak at it, right? These are all versions of collaboration and co-creating something through leveraging each other's time, talent, energy, expertise, right? And you want to make sure that you're saying yes to what feels most aligned. So let's talk about what collaboration is and what it isn't, in case you've missed some of these episodes that I've dropped in the past. Here's what I don't believe collaboration, the way I talk about it, is It's not being guests on each other's podcast once. Now, that's usually what I say, like, start there, date, see what it's like to collaborate. It can become very clear to me very quickly when somebody is not an aligned collaboration partner, just simply doing a conversation with them, let's seeing how they handle being a guest on the show. So guest swapping once isn't really a collaboration. It's a test drive, or maybe it's just an advantage for each of you to showcase each other's expertise. It's not when somebody reaches out and says, can you promote my webinar? That's actually called an affiliate. That's not a joint venture. That's not a collaboration. That's just a promotion. And collaboration isn't just knocking on someone's door or ringing them up or DMing them when you need them to promote something for you. That's not collaboration. That's not really an ecosystem. And I like to think of building a collaboration ecosystem as a big part of why my collaborations multiply results. But let me talk about what does really kind of light up is when you're intentionally focused on creating win-win-win cross promotions and collaborations with people who share an aligned audience. You're looking for mutual amplification. How can we support each other? We're looking for sharing credibility and lifting each other up in the eyes of our audiences, right? Because when you're promoting somebody, you're letting them borrow your influence and credibility and vice versa. There's that kind of like trust expansion that happens. And this is about intentionality, opening the right doors for each other. Now, the way I like to look at it is my collaboration partners, they're always on my radar. My Rising Tide Collective members, I'm always thinking of them. I get asked to speak somewhere, I'm like, who else in the community could benefit? I am always opening the doors for them because I know what it's like to get the right opportunities. You can literally go from 0 to 100 in a matter of a couple days or weeks by getting the right door open for you. So when you're in the right collaborations, the goal might be exposure. That might be one level of it, but the outcome is expansion multiplied. And that's why collaboration works. It's why it's becomes such a cornerstone of my business. Now let's talk about the cost of choosing poorly. And this is where discernment comes in. And discernment comes from knowing the right questions to ask, knowing what's important to you, but also sometimes experience. So here are some of the costs of misaligned collaborations that you say yes to. First of all, when a collaboration that you say yes to is not really a good fit for you, you will very quickly realize that you're probably putting in a lot of the effort and a lot of the time, but you're not seeing the reciprocity. This is the biggest complaint I hear about from clients and people that I coach around building their collaboration ecosystem. And they're like, hey, I did all the work in these and I didn't get anything back. Well, that might be a little bit about standards, not having clear standards. It's simply a boundaries issue. But also sometimes it's just not really knowing how it's supposed to work and what you can make a stand for. Secondly, it has to do with choosing the right people. So when you follow the factors I'm going to outline for you, what you should be experiencing is reciprocity of people inviting you as well as you being invited. And if that's not happening, then you're probably missing some of the fundamentals that really help you be chosen and be recognized for why you're a good person to collaborate with. And again, these are things that many of us have to learn and implement. I do a workshop every so often for Rising Tide Collective members when they join, because there are some components, there are 4 key pieces that when you get them in place, it makes it easier for people to go, oh yes, this is why I want to collaborate with you. Oh yes, you'd be a great fit for this event I'm speaking at. And I call it the strategic partnership engine, because when you have that in place, that engine should perform for you. And when you don't have that in place, it's really easy for you to not get the reciprocity you deserve. So another cost of choosing poorly is you are putting the effort into the collaboration, but you're not seeing new leads, new clients, new sales, your authority growing. So probably what's happening is you have something that's disconnected either in one of the components of alignment or in your profit path. And so oftentimes people really have to focus on their profit path too. And so we have to talk about the cost of credibility for choosing the wrong partners. And sometimes you won't know this until you do. I had an experience personally where there were times where the experience I was having with somebody was amazing, but I would hear behind the scenes where some things really felt like integrity breaches, or their approach was very out of brand and out of sync with what I believed in. And so I had to make new decisions. But the big one is when somebody uses selling techniques and marketing techniques that are what I believe to be out of integrity. And I won't support that. And sometimes you don't know until you get there. And sometimes you can ask different, better questions. And it just really has to do with how deep do you know the person, and how deep are you willing to go to get to know them before you start collaborating. And so let's get into what the 4 factors are, because I think as we recognize these factors, we will start to understand also where some things could go awry, but also what the value is of each factor. So factor number 1 is really the first thing. It's actually the first thing I teach in the collaboration currency materials. It has to be in place. And this is the thing that most people jump over in their speed to get to revenue and results. And that is overlapping but not identical audiences. You need to have synergy. You need to have complementary audiences. They can't be identical, and they can't be completely in different orbits. So, my partner manager, she'll bring me partners sometimes, and she's used to working with people inside the personal development world. And so we would talk through, okay, so if this is your offer, like, would this be, this person who's really big in personal development, would this be a potential partner for you? So then I would say, okay, here's what works and here's what doesn't. When they serve entrepreneurs who are already established, it works. When they have a personal development product that could be for any human on the planet, it doesn't. So really understanding where your audience is aligned and where it's maybe totally different ecosystems. And here's what she would also ask me. She said, well, what if somebody teaches authority and visibility like you? Wouldn't that make sense? Yes, and only if they teach different things. So if they're teaching a TEDx, like if you come to Visibility Velocity, my event that I do once a year, you'll see that I have speakers who may have some similar back-end offers, but their front end, the way they talk about their work, they're focusing on different parts of the visibility approach than I do. So you want audience adjacency. Solve different problems than the person you're collaborating with, instead of solving the same problem. Now, there are people who might say, Melanie, you can totally do that. You can totally do that. Well, yes. And if you have a very sophisticated email approach and collaboration approach, maybe you can make those offers at a different stage when somebody's getting to know you. After you've exposed them to your offer several times and they've never enrolled, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I want to work that hard on my email list, right? So you have to think about what's working for you. Complementary expertise, audience adjacency, and a shared client journey stage. So that's what works the best. So one of the questions you might need to find out from your partners is, what do you speak about, or what is the thing that you are attracting people to at the beginning, and what do you sell at the back end? And really look into how much is the cross promotion going to work. If you have too much overlap, you can confuse your audience, and you can literally pass people over to someone who's a stronger marketer or who's a little more flashy in the moment. But if you have enough similarity in your audience, but maybe solve different problems, the synergy works better. Let's get into factor number 2. And this is collaboration mindset. Okay, so I really believe collaborations are not just about the size of someone's email list, the reach of their social media, the collaboration assets they have to work with. There are people who are fantastic collaborators that I've been collaborating with for years who have a much smaller list than I do. And it really has to do with how deep do they go into collaboration? How much do they focus on how do we create a win for this opportunity rather than I'll just do the bare minimum? So people can have large email lists and have low generosity and zero follow through. And I've tried partnering with those people, and it wasn't always a fun experience. And there are people who are very tit for tat oriented around this, the referrals and the strategic collaborations. It's like, if you're not doing it exactly the way they believe it's supposed to look, they don't see the value. Well, I don't operate that way. I really look at what is the collaborative energy and what can we create if we focus on the long term, not just in the moment, assuming there's the synergy in there. So think about, like, if you are really going to build a collaboration ecosystem, do you want to work with people who are very much about the numbers and the facts, and are they going to be able to meet certain milestones, or do you care more like how hard they try, what the experience is like, and the fact that it's not going to be one transaction, but collaborations that give and take over and over and over again? I'm more the second. Do you also want to work with people who create proactively versus reactively? So you want people who are creating assets and opportunities and all kinds of communications where there is a ease in the interactions rather than a stress. So these are things you want to look at. So one of the things you might ask is, if I move forward with this person, are we in a transaction or are we building a collaboration ecosystem for the long term? Now, you won't know that in the beginning. In the beginning, you're dating. But they will say things and do things, and you'll notice they tend to collaborate with the same people over and over and over again. Those are the people who tend to think long-term over transaction. So let's talk about factor number 3. I like to think of it as authority expansion. And so this might be a nuance when you already have authority. One of the things you want to look at is, will we be able to exchange visibility, or are they just going to want to borrow mine? Now, this won't be important to everybody. And if you're at a stage where you don't have your own authority assets, you don't have your own authority platforms, then you're really borrowing other people's, but you're going to have to get creative. There's a lot of ways to be collaborative that don't require this. But once you do have an authority platform, so I have my podcast here, I have my email list, I have my social presence, I have my Rising Tide Collective, I have my events that I do each year, that I invite speakers and show hosts and things to be gaining exposure and access to my client base. So I have lots of assets, right? And I'm always able to refer. If somebody isn't able to exchange that with you, at a certain point, you're going to be doing all the work. So one of the things you might want to look at is, what is the collaborations they're able to do? And is that really going to match my vibration, my energy, my abilities, and my reach that I want to bring? So think about what's important to you and what are you able to contribute. So here's a question you might want to explore with them. What do you do that works well when you're promoting or collaborating with partners? I ask people that, especially if they don't have some of the common assets that I'm used to. Now, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, wow, I don't have those kind of assets. Get them. There are so many things you can do. I have a few people in Rising Tide who don't have podcasts, and they're like, well, how am I going to open the door? It's like, get creative. There's so many things you can do to promote. One of my Rising Tide members, she does a Friday LinkedIn post where she talks about the thought leader spotlight or something like that. And so she'll tag people in it that she's giving a boost of visibility to. That's a really simple thing anybody can do. So let's talk about factor number 4. And this is where the ecosystem really takes off. I've talked about for years this idea of the $1 million visibility network. And this is the root of it, is the long-term compounding potential. So what happens for a lot of people, and I saw this unfolding with the speaker outreach and reviewing applications and talking with people about speaking at visibility velocity. And what tends to happen is people stop at, is this going to deliver what I need right now? But they're not looking at what might happen if I lean into this opportunity, even though it may not be the perfect thing that I want to say yes to, but there's something else that's meant to emerge here. Could I nurture it? How could we make it bigger? How could we activate more stages, referral, masterminds invitation? How could I amplify or expand the impact that this collaboration partner has with me? So when you shift to what am I going to get right now, to long-term thinking of I'm looking for whatever your thing is, 5 strategic partners, 10 strategic partners, 20 strategic partners that you maybe exchange times with, and it's not always the same people all the time. Well, now you're thinking long-term. And if you think, I want a core set of partners, maybe 5, and then I want 15 that are kind of orbiting around that we dip in and out, now you've got a really strong ecosystem. And you're able to create shared wins. Some of my partners, I can't say that it's ever been about getting clients in the door for each other, but we know our collaborations are all about the high level speaking and doors that get opened. We refer each other really coveted opportunities for visibility, and then we do the work to move those relationships into money, expanded authority, and the other pieces, right? So when you think about it, the long-term compounding potential isn't just about what am I getting out of this opportunity right now. It's what can I build? Who else am I going to meet? Who else am I adding to my collaboration ecosystem from this relationship? How connected are they? How generous are they? How much expansion possibility is there in this? You're creating momentum that's not just about the moment, but it's about a repeated, compounding, ever multiplying relationship that continues to deliver really high profile opportunities. And then you build it again and again and again with more people. The best partnerships are not about a spike. They're about compounding all of the good opportunities and all of that momentum to build your list, attract more clients over and over and over again. So you have to ask yourself, am I looking for something that's going to spike right now? Or am I willing to invest in collaborations that co-create opportunities over and over and over again? Now, these are the 4 things that I look at. There are other factors that I think you may want to deep dive into, and everything depends on what's important to you right now and what's your big vision. And if you are not using a collaboration system or discerning who's right and who's not is important to you, I'm going to give you one last bonus factor. How does this person make you feel? I can tell you over and over and over again that if I will even just say, gaslit myself into saying, I don't like the way this person makes me feel, but they're really big, or they have a big name, or there's got to be a lot of opportunity. They have a big list. Like if I've ever done that to myself in the past, I guarantee you that partnership fell apart, and usually not in a good way. How people make you feel in the first few conversations is how you're going to feel throughout the collaboration. And that is one of the biggest discernments. Don't go for the ego boost. Go for alignment. Okay, so if you have said yes to the 4 factors and then you check in how you feel, you should have a relationship that's really worth investing in. And hey, take it for a spin, test drive it, talk about what's an easy way to start playing together and collaborating together to see how it goes. Sometimes it's not going to go where you want it to go, and it's okay to take a step out of it if it's not going the right direction. So I've covered a lot of resources that we have here inside my company. I will highlight them in the show notes, but if you're looking for ways to step into a collaboration ecosystem and to really get strategic and intentional, I highly recommend that you start by getting a copy of my collaboration currency system. And if you're already active in collaborations and you are established, you have expertise, and you're really looking to grow and amplify, Rising Tide Collective might just be a perfect fit for you. I'll link that up in the show notes as well. And keep an eye out for Visibility Velocity. That's a really great place to get a lot of awesome collaborations going and that lead to visibility for you and your business. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.